This is Sean from All Things EV, and in this video, I do a deep dive into my 2013 Tesla Model S over the course of 300,000 miles and whether I recommend the car or not. I'm going to touch on four categories here. One is fuel consumption, or how much it costs for me to power the car. Two, battery degradation. How much range have I lost over the course of ownership? Service and repairs, how much it's cost to repair the vehicle and the things that have broken on it. And lastly, the cost of maintenance. And for those that have seen previous videos, I've compared two cars to my Tesla Model S. One is a comparably priced vehicle, the Audi A7 Quattro, and the Subaru Legacy, which is the vehicle I traded in my car for. And the reason why I'm comparing that Subaru Legacy, even though it's not an apples to apples comparison in terms of price point, is I wanted to track and follow, did I make out better or worse in terms of cost of ownership? My Tesla was about $20,000 more than the Subaru that I purchased, but I surmised that total cost to operate the vehicle was significantly less with the Tesla than it was with the Subaru, primarily due to the cost of fuel and oil changes. And I do want to add here that throughout this video, there are a ton of variables that I just didn't have time to factor in. So I had to make some assumptions and some averages in some places, like fuel cost. Over the course of 6 years that I've owned this car, the fuel cost has gone up and down and up and down. So there will be some estimates and some averages here. I'll try to point them out when appropriate. So for fuel prices for the Audi, I'm factoring in a premium fuel cost at $4 a gallon. For regular unleaded for the Subaru, I'm factoring in a cost of $3 per gallon. And for oil changes, I'm estimating about $100 for the Audi every 5,000 miles. And for the Subaru, about $50 for an oil change every 5,000 miles. And then I'm factoring in transmission fluid changes every 30,000 miles at $175 for the Audi and $100 for the Subaru. Now, of course, if you do your own, then you're only paying for the cost of the fluids and your time. I'm factoring in if you take this into a dealership and what they may charge you. For the Tesla, electricity is costing me somewhere around 11 cents per kilowatt hour. This is another one of those things that it's just hard to track because as I've moved around the city, the electricity rate raises and lowers depending on who my utility provider is. 11 cents per kilowatt hour at the moment is probably a little bit high, but we'll estimate on the high side here. This is probably a good time to mention that I don't have to worry about oil changes or transmission fluid changes. There is a coolant in the battery pack, and I think maybe once I've had to take it in to get that coolant topped off. And then I have had my transmission fluid changed in the electric motor once, very, very early on, probably around 75,000 miles, but have not changed it since. Tesla doesn't really recommend that you do that on a regular basis, so I'm assuming that it's not needed. In terms of fuel cost comparison, the Audi A7 totals out at an estimate of $59,970, so just under $60,000 to fuel the vehicle. The Subaru Legacy, $35,034, and the Tesla Model S, $11,335. So quite a big difference there. Cost of electricity is far lower than it is for fuel. Let's talk about battery degradation. A lot of you wanted to know about that. When I first bought this car in 2016, I bought it 3 years old with 16,000 miles. It had a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack. And at the time that I bought it, at 16,000 miles, 100% charge was giving me 201 miles. In September 2018, that battery pack did fail under warranty, so it didn't cost me anything to have that replaced. The last full stated charge showed 187 miles. Because Tesla didn't make the 60 kilowatt hour pack anymore, they gave me a 75 kilowatt hour pack, so they upgraded me at no cost under warranty. The only caveat was that it was a refurbished battery pack. The first battery pack lasted 145,000 miles before it died. Currently, I've got 155,000 miles on this pack, and I don't have any issues with it. It hasn't failed. I'm not seeing huge drops in range, so it appears to be that this second generation refurbished battery pack is quite resilient. Next is a very detailed list of all of the service and repairs that I've done on the car. I want to make a note here that this is an early version of their very first production vehicle. It's got a low 8,000 VIN, so there were a lot of parts on this that just weren't built to last very long, and you'll see this in the long list of repairs that I've had. I bought the car in 2016, and it wasn't until 2017 that I started taking the car in. And to be quite honest, since I had the CPO warranty, I probably took it in a little bit more than I would had I not had it. So you'll see that in 2017, I've got 16 service items, and the biggest one was water ingress and the headliner. That was around the time that I tapped out that 50,000 mile CPO warranty. So it's one of my first ticket items, and certainly my most expensive ticket item in 2017. In 2018, I had 5 service items, and another big ticket item in that year was the front suspension replacement. That front suspension issue will resurface again later on, and I'll get to that in just a moment. In 2019, I had 4 service items, a relatively small year in terms of items as well as costs, with the most expensive repair in 2019 being the charge port corrosion at $837.50. 2020, I had 3 service items, and I had to replace my MCU. That was an interesting one. I was on my way back from Fully Charged Live in Austin back in 2020, and a winter storm had come through, and the screen decided to go out, so I didn't have any way to control the heater. Now, fortunately, the heater was on, so it did continue. I just couldn't control it with the screen. I also didn't have a way to navigate to the supercharger, so I was using Google Maps to try and estimate how far I could go before I needed to stop and charge. I also had to replace my instrument cluster later that year, so both displays have been replaced, fortunately. In 2021, I had 2 service items and a refund of that MCU because they did an official recall for it, so I'm counting that in here in my costs for repairs. The onboard charger did go out in December of 2021. It allowed me to supercharge but not charge at home at all. It wouldn't take a slower charge. It would only take the DC fast charge, so quite a problem, I guess, if I'm charging at home, which is mostly what I do today. And that brings us to 2022. This year, it has been a very expensive repair year this year, mainly because I had to replace my motor. Now, there's 2 sides to this. One is that it was a $6,000 repair for me. It's a refurbished motor. They didn't allow me to buy what they put in today's Model S's into my current one for whatever reason. I'm not sure. So it was refurbished motor at just over $6,000. That is a very expensive repair. However, the original motor did last 285,000 miles. So you're looking at a Tesla and trying to assess how long are these things going to last. In terms of the motors, there's probably a pretty good chance that it's going to last a while. And I also had the same issue with my onboard charger this year that I did last year. Now, fortunately, that piece was also under warranty because it hadn't even been a year yet, but hopefully I don't have any other issues with this. This also was a refurbished part. It doesn't seem like they're doing new parts for these older cars. And last, I had to replace the front suspension again a couple of months ago. Very similar parts to what I had replaced back in 2018, although it was not nearly as expensive, about $1,000 less expensive. So total, over the course of 300,000 miles, my repairs have cost me $18,982.69. So just under $19,000 of repairs, with this year by far being the most expensive, totaling $7,443.37. And the last category that I'll cover here is just the maintenance cost. The majority of that has been tires. Now, there are some smaller things in here that I really don't care to track, like washer fluid and wipers. In comparison to tires, it's just a small percentage of my cost to maintain the vehicle. But there are those in there. I didn't add them in because I think they're too insignificant to keep track of them. The other thing that I'll mention here is that I'm almost exclusively using Tesla to rotate my tires, and for whatever reason, and maybe I shouldn't be mentioning this publicly, but for whatever reason, they haven't been charging me to rotate my tires, and they even come to my house to do that with their mobile service. So I haven't had to pay recently, and therefore they're not in this list, but it cost me around $75 for them to come to me and rotate my tires when I do have to pay for it. So let's do a summary of things. The cost breakdown for everything: 23% maintenance, 48% service and repairs, and 28.7% fuel consumption. My cost per mile is about 13 cents, and my cost per kilometer is about 8 cents. Breaking down the cost by dollars, the fuel consumption tallies up to a little over $11,000 at $11,334.77. Service and repairs, as I just mentioned, is just under $19,000, and maintenance cost around $9,192.15. And if we do some loose estimating here, my total cost to operate my Model S over 300,000 miles has been $39,510. That's factoring in fuel costs, service repairs, and maintenance into that just under $40,000 cost. Now, if we take the fuel estimates that I've tallied for Audi and Subaru, and I apply the service, repair, maintenance costs that I've incurred with my Tesla and apply that to the Audi, here are some estimates on how much it would cost me over 300,000 miles to operate both Audi and Subaru. For Audi, it's $88,145, and the Subaru, $63,209. Now, I know that some of these repairs that I've done with the Tesla are pretty exclusive, but it's very difficult, again, to get into the nuances of what it would cost me to run the Audi and the Subaru, because I don't have them anymore, or at least I don't have the Subaru anymore, and I have never owned an Audi. So some things will break on the Audi that I wouldn't have on the Tesla, and the same thing for the Tesla. So this is just an estimate to give you an idea about what it would cost. Big picture, it's less expensive to fuel the Tesla in comparison to the Subaru and the Audi. And if I estimate repairs and service, it's still less expensive. So this is just to give you an idea. Don't hold it against me. These are estimates. I am using some broad strokes here. This is just for this purpose here today. Do I recommend a Tesla? Yes, with a caveat. If the Tesla is an early production model like mine, my Model S is, I would, if you can, ask the current owner, what replacements have they done? Has that MCU been replaced? Has the instrument cluster behind the steering wheel been replaced? Have they seen battery pack and motor replacements? Your battery pack is going to cost out of warranty around $15,000 to $20,000 today. That motor will cost you $6,000 for a refurbished one. If you've got a new Tesla, they've obviously gotten a lot more experience since mine, so the reliability, fingers crossed, shouldn't be an issue for you. So you do have that in mind, and of course the warranty should cover any potential failure that you'll see in some of those larger ticket items like the motor and battery pack. Overall, I think the experience of driving a Tesla is really great. It's really fun. I think that their performance and acceleration is one of the best in the industries. Their software, I think, is really, really great. I would like to see a little bit more reliability in terms of the parts and the quality that's rolling off the line, the assembly line, and into owners' hands. It appears to be just too inconsistent for how many cars they've produced. I would like to see them increase that reliability, the parts reliability, and the build quality. I realize that some people may disagree, and you may own a Tesla and you've never had any issues, but I do know of people that have had issues, and some of them a lot of issues. So I'd like to see a little bit more consistency across the board in terms of build quality and parts reliability. So yes, I do recommend a Tesla. with a grain of salt. Just be aware, if you're buying a used one that's out of warranty, repairs do cost a lot. If you're buying a brand new one, there's a good chance that you're going to be fine and you're not going to have any issues. And fortunately, Tesla has grown their service locations, and in some areas they're even offering, they're even doing their own body repairs. They've got body repair shops as well. So it's been remarkable to see their growth and how they've tried to problem solve over the years and over the course of my ownership. They have made improvements in many areas, and hopefully they continue to improve. So Sean Mitchell, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video, maybe how many miles you've got on your Tesla and your overall experience. I appreciate you watching this. Thank you so much. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you really enjoyed this, please hit the like button. My last review that I did, similar to this, has got almost 900,000 views. So I'd love to get this particular video to 1 million views or more. So share it out as well if you think someone might benefit from it. Thanks so much for watching again. Talk to you in the next video.